he is as confident, but confidence based on preparation as anybody you're going to run into.
I'm telling you, if one has time to throw, he can make every throw you'd ask of him.
That you need to make on the next level. This kid since his freshman year in his first start, and you just kind of knew there was something special. Everything that you want at the position, as good as advertised, and he plays that way and shows it every single play. Wilson, he knows exactly where he's going with the football, who he's going to pick on early, stands in there and throws an absolute dime. This is as good as it gets at the quarterback position. The kid can do it all.
And Zach Wilson's a Heisman caliber quarterback.
He should be in that conversation this year. He's that good.
We've talked about Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, and Trey Lance, but there is another college quarterback that has recently catapulted his draft stock and has become part of the national spotlight, adding even more luster to the upcoming NFL draft and all those signal callers who will probably be taken in the first round. This guy isn't from a top Power 5 conference school, yet he is still leaving a year early and declaring for the 2021 NFL Draft. His 2019 collegiate season wasn't the greatest, but as a freshman in 2018 and now in 2020, he has shown NFL front offices that he is a leader that could make a difference for their team. Let's find out more about BYU's Zach Wilson and why he is skyrocketing to the top of NFL draft boards. Before we get to the content, please take a moment to sack that like button for the YouTube algorithm and follow us on Twitter and Instagram to suggest more content like this. Now that we got all that out of the way, break! Mic check 1 2 1 2. BYU's Zach Wilson is a native of Utah, attending Corner Canyon High School in Draper, where as a senior, he tossed for 2,986 yards for 24 touchdowns and ran for 752 yards with 8 touchdowns. However, he was just a 3-star recruit and didn't receive many calls and letters from states other than those located regionally and a few in the upper Midwest. Wilson is the second oldest of 6 siblings, all who are active athletes, and he also comes from a long line of successful people on both sides of his family. Not necessarily in sports, but very lucrative in business. From the beginning, pressure was put upon Zach to continue the family's name with honor, and like a diamond, he has succeeded so far and now seems destined for the NFL and maybe even a very near to the #1 overall first-round pick in the draft. His mother's side is comprised of doctors, attorneys, international bureau chiefs, and efficacious businessmen in the medical and airline sector. His father didn't come from much and is self-made, and he kept Zach busy playing football and basketball year-round, playing up to 2 levels in basketball and working on his football skills even in the brutal winter months that Utah endures. From the very beginning, Zach Wilson was supposed to be athletically dominant and was expected to thrive on and off the football field. Early in his senior season of high school, Zach was recruited by and even ready to commit to Boise State, committing to become a Bronco at first. It was basically a done deal. His garage was practically packed full of BSU gear. Wilson, after thinking it over and how important family was to him, decided it would be impossible to return home for Sunday family dinners and quickly switched his commitment to BYU late in his senior year of high school. That also meant that 50 or 60 family members strong could watch him on Saturdays at Lavelle Edwards Stadium. BYU is traditionally known as a strong football school, so it was unknown if he would become a starter during his freshman season. Like those family members who came before him, he succeeded and became the youngest quarterback ever to start for the team just halfway through his freshman season. This was a pretty big accomplishment itself, as the Cougars football team consists of a roster typically full of 21-plus-year-olds, as many Mormon men go on their 2-year mission during the ages of 19 to 26 and then return to school, meaning a lot of BYU college athletes are much older than your typical Division I player. Zach Wilson was your clean-cut boy-next-door type, with dark blonde hair and blue eyes, and would stay in the starting spot and would lead the BYU football team to many wins. He won not just only from his natural athletic ability, but was dedicated to his grind. Wilson would spend countless hours late at night studying film instead of playing video games, watching TV, or what most people are doing, sleeping. Bear in mind, this was when Fortnite was at the height of its power, so for Zach Wilson to essentially neglect that entire aspect of his life is extremely impressive to say the least. Wilson, however, had to buckle down in the classroom. Diagnosed with ADHD, sitting in class taking notes didn't come as easy as breaking down football film hours on end, something that I personally could resonate with because I myself have been diagnosed with ADHD, and as a result, scholastically, it took me about 6 hours to do what my classmates could do in 1 hour. However, just like myself, Wilson acknowledged this, saying in an interview prior to the start of his sophomore season, "School can be hard. I try hard, but it's a struggle for me because of the attention deficit. When it comes to football, I can do it all day." He overcame the education portion and has done all right. In fact, the entire BYU team was strong academically, posting an overall GPA of 3.31 through his fall 2020 semester. By the end of his freshman year, Zach Wilson was gaining more recognition nationally. In the 7 starts he made, 120 of 182 passes were complete for 1,578 yards. He had 12 touchdowns, and get this was how remarkable he was at ball security. Only threw 3 interceptions. In the 2018 famous Idaho Potato Bowl, he basically had a perfect game when you look at it by football standards. He threw 18 passes, and all of them, each and every single pass, was complete. Those passes sailed through the air for 317 yards and also scored 4 touchdowns in the win over Western Michigan, a sneaky team that had easily upset Power 5 conference teams in the past. Wilson didn't even finish the 4th quarter in that game, as it was a guaranteed win by the end of the 3rd. He was deservingly named MVP of the bowl game. In Wilson's sophomore season of 2019, there were high expectations riding on his shoulders. He was also coming off of a shoulder surgery and didn't quite put it together, scoring only 11 touchdowns and completing 199 of 319 passes for 2,382 yards and was picked off 9 times. However, he would kind of redeem himself in the Hawaii Bowl with earning the MVP with 274 passing yards and rushing for 72 yards with 2 touchdowns in the Cougars' surprising loss to a Hawaii team that was very weak defensively. Although he was named BYU's MVP of the game, he had 3 costly turnovers in the game and wasn't able to seal the win for the Cougars. For example, a 3rd and 4 scramble that was clutch for 6 yards while deep in his own territory late was forgotten by the many errors that would ensue. The worst was when the Cougars were up 34-31 with just 4 minutes remaining, and Zach Wilson would throw an incomplete pass followed by a game-ending interception. Still, there were some impressive moments from his sophomore season, and some believe he was still adjusting to his shoulder recovery, and not to mention he was still young. So there was a lot riding on year 3 for Zach Wilson. After some notable highlights in his first 2 collegiate seasons, especially that bowl game in 2018, Wilson seemed destined to put it all together for his junior season. At the conclusion of 10 games in the odd season of 2020, Wilson had thrown for 2,724 yards with 26 touchdowns, and although he wasn't known for his speed, he was able to pick up another 8 touchdowns on the ground. After BYU's loss to Coastal Carolina, which was a haphazard throw the game on the schedule literally days before college football Saturday, he really finished the season strong. That game was wild. It was literally like an online dating app date for 2 teams, and the couple was the 2 undefeated teams looking to connect at the last minute. For both teams, there was very little time to really dissect opposing game film. And for BYU, they hurriedly sent their equipment on the 40-hour journey to the East Coast, along with a day later the team boarding the plane for a long flight, and before they knew it, the Provo/Conway hookup began. It was a big deal. Most Division I cross-conference games are planned literally 10 to 15 years in advance. Wilson didn't produce any eye-popping stats in that loss and even had an early Hail Mary intercepted to the Coastal Carolina goal line. But it was a close game with Wilson almost driving the Cougars into the end zone but getting stopped literally inches away on the last play of the game. However, Wilson was able to redeem himself for the Cougars' season finale game with a win to end the not-so-regular season. and then really show out in the Cougars bowl game. He ended the last collegiate season of his career by passing for 3,692 yards, 33 touchdowns, and completing 74% of his passes. Let's break down some of that Boca Raton bowl game where BYU faced off against UCF. Wilson had to know this was his last chance for real game action to prove his first round worth, perhaps even top pick value, because during that game, he shined. NFL scouts were tuning in, even in appearance, and Wilson looked like he had matured into a top 3 NFL prospect who now looked just as good as, Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. NFL draft experts had to wipe the drool from the chin early on in that game. Wilson had 35 points virtually solo before the rest of the Cougars offense joined in on the fun. His first passing touchdown soared for 36 yards to Isaac Rex. Rex and Wilson looked good again as Wilson tossed to Rex on his second touchdown. Only this time it would be for 27 yards. Then there was the 35-yard missile that Zach Wilson launched to Neil Pau just before the teams entered the tunnel for halftime, finishing the game with 425 passing yards on his stat line, 3 touchdowns via the air, 2 touchdowns via rushing, and it was the greatest bowl game appearance by any BYU quarterback in NCAA history. And paired with his 2018 Potato Bowl appearance that was near perfect, and the 2019 Hawaii Bowl where he was also BYU's MVP even though he struggled with turnovers, and he had officially became the greatest bowl game quarterback in BYU history. Remember that Steve Young also went to BYU, so this is a fairly bold statement, but it looks to be true. In one category, Wilson's resume shines brighter than Steve Young's, when it comes to bowl games anyway. But Wilson has a lot, well, more than a lot, to live up to match or even think about surpassing Young's NFL accomplishments. In his 3 bowl games, Wilson had amassed 1,016 passing yards, 7 passing touchdowns, 107 yards rushing, along with 4 rushing touchdowns. That's 11 touchdowns in 3 bowl games, a 213.1 career rating in bowl games with a 78.8% completion percentage. Too bad that none of those bowl games were part of the college football playoff. On January 1st, Zach Wilson, the likely first round pick, the number 3 ranked draft eligible quarterback, and the number 14 overall player, according to ESPN NFL draft analyst Mel Kiper Jr., made an announcement that didn't surprise many of us. It was a tweet thanking Cougar Nation for their support, thanking his coaches, his teammates, his family, friends, and his fans too. It was an announcement that he would be forgoing his senior season so he could prepare for the 2021 NFL Draft. Zach Wilson had already signed with a big agent at William Morris Agency, a group that also represents Hollywood actors and actresses such as Jessica Alba, Christian Bale, and Hugh Jackman. The agency set him up to live in some of the sweetest digs ever in sunny California, so he can be ready for the sooner rather than later upcoming NFL Combine. In a video posted by Wilson, he is showing off his new home, which includes a table full of gifts and a PlayStation 5. I guess until he has some more game film to study, he can spend his free time on that, although unfortunately, there aren't a lot of games out for PlayStation 5. So what makes Zach Wilson stand out from all these other quarterbacks, you might ask? Let's see all those cliche descriptive words that seem to fit him well. His arm is strong, and on long throws, he is accurate too. One stat that is remarkable is that on throws that are 20 plus yards this season, he only had 1 interception, and that was against Coastal Carolina. Comparing him to a current NFL quarterback, Zach Wilson is a little smaller than Josh Allen, but actually closely resembles Allen's arm strength. Wilson has shown that he can place the ball perfectly into wideouts' hands and keep the ball out of the opposing defense's hands. That is a quality that had taken Allen some time to get to, almost 3 years into the league, and he now has the accuracy along with the strong arm. Wilson, on the other hand, already looks ready for his NFL rookie debut to show off his powerful arm and accuracy tools on Sunday. Everyone is wowed by Wilson's passing touchdowns, but another characteristic of his is the mobility he possesses. He can move around the pocket and at any time is able to rush to reach the end zone as well. He takes off running, and although he doesn't look that fast, he gains ground quickly. He can fake the defense out too. While on the run just before the line of scrimmage, Wilson can consistently complete a 15 to 20 yard pass with ease, and there isn't anything taken off of the ball that reaches the intended receiver's hands, even if Wilson tosses it while unbalanced. Zach Wilson is 6'3" and can see over the line of scrimmage, and he can also see down the field. He does have a 3/4 release, which can put pressure on the shoulder, thus he may be more apt for another injury. However, he already had his labrum repaired in 2019, but there are still a lot of successful NFL quarterbacks with wonky arm action, so that isn't something that should hold him back at all. Wilson's character surprisingly came into the conversation, but by what most would call typical clickbait type of media. In an article at the end of December, Zach Wilson was pegged as a spoiled brat. This harshest criticism came just days before BYU's bowl game, where Wilson shut down the haters and the attack from the website named Walter Football by simply playing really good football. That website tweeted out a teaser for an article in which they quoted a director of college scouting for an NFC team who said he had learned from an unnamed source that Wilson had quote-unquote character issues. The teaser said, "Wilson has character concerns. Rich kid who is an entitled brat. Uncle owns JetBlue, parents are a pain, not a leader, selfish, and he's a know-it-all," via the teaser quote for Walter Football on Twitter. The Walter Football website is dedicated to Pac-12 and Mountain West coverage and wrote about Wilson balling out against Boise State and San Diego State, so those writers knew how dominant he was on the field. And most think they were just looking for more views, so they probably washed it up to stir the pot up a bit. The controversy was short-lived, and it was quickly proven that Wilson's coaches support him. His teammates supported him. Football fans support him, and there is the fact that he hasn't been ever associated with the word trouble during any of his 21 years on Earth. Basically, everyone was very quick to come to Zach Wilson's defense when he was blasted by that insignificant football publication. Shandon Earing, an offensive lineman for BYU, tweeted, "I played with Zach for several years and have nothing but respect for the dude. He is entitled to nothing and works harder and longer than most to reach his goals. Don't listen to people who haven't trained, worked, or played with him to tell you about his character." BYU's receiver coach also tweeted, "Someone clearly had a plan to damage Zach's reputation. But as you look around, everyone and their dog is coming to his defense, which only increases his stock and displays his true character. So whoever that random troll is that started this, your plan backfired. Good job." Even players from his high school days came to his defense, which makes one wonder if the IP address of the unnamed source came from a computer in Clemson, South Carolina, or Columbus, Ohio. Noah Jar, a corner who is slated to play for Weber State, tweeted that Zach Wilson was my quarterback my freshman year, and he was the biggest example to me. He led our team all the way to the semis with a team that wasn't nearly as good around him. He made all of us play better, he's a great leader, and these guys don't know what they are talking about. Tons of other people tweets rolled in after the slander article came out. There were fans tweeting photos of Wilson taking the time to sign autographs after practice, after games, and others who were talking about the many hospital visits he did during his free time and how he would spend hours after practice fulfilling autograph requests for numerous fundraisers and charities that had requested them through the university. Zach Wilson went out a few days after that article, not the least bit shaken, and had an outstanding performance in a bowl game, leading his team to a victory while padding his already impressive 2020 stats. Today, all the articles you find is how he is destined to be one of the top picks in the upcoming draft. NFL teams probably aren't worried about attitude with Wilson, but they may be hesitant to go all in due to the competition Wilson has faced during his time as the BYU Cougars head signal caller. There was an impressive win over USC in 2019, but in 2020, it is an odd year anyway, and BYU hasn't matched up against the best teams. UCF didn't have the defense they had been known of having in the past, and that loss to Coastal Carolina would have looked better if they would have actually beat the Liberty in their bowl game. When it comes to Wilson, you have to look at the film more than the stats, and you will see his real potential. His movement, his touch, his power, his maturity for a 21-year-old, and the way he keeps a level head in adversity. 6'3" and 210 pounds at 21 years old. Get him in an elite NFL weight room with an expert NFL strength and conditioning coach, and he could look menacing. There are a lot of NFL teams that need a new quarterback, so expect Zach Wilson's name to be called very early on that special evening this coming April.